If you're hearing us and seeing us okay, can you just tell us, please, make a comment and just let us know you're seeing us, hearing us okay? Okay. If you can hear us okay, if you can see us all right, can you click and just make a comment and let us know that you can see us and hear us okay? I might even see the page. Are we on live? Can you see it? Can either of you see it?
I can see it.
Yes.
But I'm way out of touch. I don't know what's going on. Oh, Lordy. Right. Anyways. Okay. Yes. We're back. Leah has no son. Okay. Right. So we're gonna crack on. We're gonna start. I think there's only, yeah, we're gonna start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And there's a little delay, but that's fine. Okay. Still waiting for a few more people to come on. Just a couple more minutes.
Yeah. They may be waiting for us to start talking to join in. So
Possibly.
they want to just push on.
I'll just do the introduction in the meantime.
Yes.
I'll just do the intro now. Right. Right, so good evening all. Welcome to Say It Loud, another night. This is our third episode and it's been good. It's been very good so far, very informative. From the last session, session 2, I got a lot of feedback, a lot of personal questions in my inbox that I had to respond to. But thank you so much for engaging with us. And, you know, singleness is very important to a lot of people. I can see that now. Tonight, we're focusing on, you know, the marital relationship, and our focus tonight is going to be on the premarital preparation, right? I have with me two wonderful giants in the kingdom of God, and I'm very pleased, very happy that they're with us. And I'm just going to introduce them before we move ahead. First, I want to introduce Reverend Diana Nelson. And she's a very dynamic woman of God, and she has a profound and unwavering commitment to the divine destiny and mission of the church. She's a Jamaican native. She's previously worked in the health sector, mainly in the area of microbiology, in which she holds a degree. She also has a Master of Divinity degree from the Theological Seminary in New York City. And she's an ordained minister with the Church of God. Of course, the headquarters, Cleveland, Tennessee. Lady Di, as I call her, she currently serves as an associate pastor alongside her husband of 34 years. Senior pastor, Dr. R.C.U. Nelson of the Church of God, East Flatbush in New York. She is the executive director of the Hope Center Development Corporation, and they are doing a tremendous piece of work over there in New York. She's a regular speaker at women's conferences, conventions, and retreats. And Lady Di loves to challenge and help women fulfill their divine purpose. So welcome, Lady Di. Welcome. Thank you. My second guest is tonight is Bishop Andrew Dolben, also a Jamaican native. He is a proud former member and youth pastor of Escarpment, or should I say 3B Escarpment Road, New Testament Church of God in Jamaica. And I've had the privilege to see him in ministry back then. He has a background as a science teacher and also has had experience in the healthcare sector, and was noted one of the first person of color to have served as a manager for one of the biggest employers in in America, well, in with the FAVARH, and I'm sure that is some health sector. Right. Bishop Dobbin and his beautiful wife, Reverend Michaela Dobbin, whom he refers to as his eighth wonder of the world. Only from Andrew, as we would say back in the day. Only from Andrew. Both of them served as pastors at King's Chapel, Church of God, for several years, and now they are pastors and host pastors of the Celestial Praise Church of God in Springfield, Massachusetts. He's a micro college graduate. He's also a graduate of the Hartford University, and he's currently undertaking a Master's of Arts in Counseling at the Pentecostal Theological Seminary. He's an ordained bishop with the Church of God. He's a member of the Regional Executive Council and District Overseer for the Springfield District of Churches and president of the Greater Springfield Pastors Council. He's an author, and he's written the book, Marriage, A Love Seat for Two. He and his wife conduct marriage enrichment events across the USA and Jamaica, and they host an annual event called Love Fusion, a singles and couples conference where they provide marital and premarital counseling. They both also appear on a monthly NBC Channel 22 Mass Appeal TV show where they speak on relationship matters. Being told once by a teacher that he would never amount to anything in life, Bishop Dobbin holds firm that with God, all things are possible to him that believe and are called according to his purpose. So Bishop Dobbin, Lady Di, welcome and thank you so much for joining me on this program tonight. I'm looking forward to an amazing discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, thanks for joining us. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have started and we're just going to crack on. So I chose this particular topic because I think it's a kind of the marriage toolkit. I think it's a good analogy, and a concept of the toolkit gives us the idea of work or fixing something or preparing for something. Many couples do not place emphasis on marriage, but there's a lot of preparation that is, an emphasis that is placed on the wedding, to make a big impression, or, here the wedding of the century, talk about the wedding of the century. And a few years down the line, it unfortunately sometimes results in divorce. Mm-hmm. So we are going to look tonight at the pre and post, well, the pre before the post of marriage. Over this month, we'll be exploring the toolkit. We're going to see, hopefully, what we should have in it and what we need to get rid of. And this should help us to identify our personal expectations around marriage, courtship, determine whether we are compatible with our partners, and see if we're actually ready to make this lifelong covenant. I also want to say, I think marriage is the most, next to making a personal decision to walk with God, the most important decision one can make in their lives. And, we prepare to buy a car. And in the process of preparing to buy a car, we have to, study and take driving lessons, eventually get to do our practical and theory exams. After that, we have to get registered with the DVLA. I'm not sure what they call it in America, in your states, but we have to get registered with the DVLA here and insure the car to ensure that it's roadworthy and it meets all the necessary legal requirements before we can drive it. Mm-hmm. I don't think marriage should be any different. I don't think the preparation for marriage should be any different. And tonight we're going to explore premarital counseling, premarital preparation. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to hear what you both have to say. I'm going to start off by asking both of you the question, what is premarital counseling and how important is it for couples who desire to get married to be prepared? Lady Dia, what can I start with you?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here in New York. Thank you for having me. And of course, as Eve said, and I'm a homegrown British person, and I'm grateful for the training I had there. And when she contacted me a couple of weeks ago with regards to finding, I think she kind of helped me to segue into wanting to talk about Ruth in terms from a biblical perspective, what it is, and Boaz. And I just want to preface this. And Bishop Dobbin, I'm so grateful to God that I know you and your wife and that we're here to have this conversation. And of course, I made a few notes so that I don't go off track. And my first thing that I want to say, when we look at this and from the mindset of Ruth and Boaz, is that finding Boaz is not finding Jesus. And so we've got to look at that because a lot of times I think the church does not necessarily prepare us and prepare our single women in terms of what to look for. And I know that there are a lot of churches, my church, try to prepare our single men and single women, but I don't think we have done a great job. And so I want to go to my notes in just a couple of things in terms of what I think that we ought to look at. So I'm sure many of us in this audience may have watched the movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, with Will Smith portraying this guy, Chris Gardner, a man who was homeless, became a single father in just trying to prepare for himself. And of course, through the movie, we learned that his wife walked away because she was not prepared for him going through all the troubles that he went through. However, the story, and it's a real life story, goes on to say that he eventually became a stockbroker, opening up his own business, and became a multi-millionaire. Now, I think for her, she was not prepared to handle all of that. I say this to say that there has to be a preparation in terms of marriage because you're going to go through the highs and the lows. And if you're not prepared for this, you will walk away prematurely. I believe that my husband and I, Hugh, have just celebrated 34 years of marriage. And there are highs, there are lows. But I thank God for the training over the years that I had before. And so here's where the church comes in, is that single people sometimes feel like spare parts and in a church. We focus so much on marriage that we forget that many of us who are married need to have had some type of preparation before we get there. And so marriage is good, but so also is singleness. And I know that the Bible gives us reason to believe that when Paul talks about singleness as a gift, it was because he was comfortable. He was not only comfortable, but he accepted the fact that this was going to be his life. Now, I can't say that this is going to be the life for many of our single women or single men who aspire, especially wanting a family relation. And so we find that even in the church, if you're not married by the age of 30, folks are looking at you as though something is wrong. And from my own experience, growing up in Wood Green, I remember going to many weddings and so forth. And, you know, the question was asked, aren't you married yet? And I think this is like a dagger in the life of a single person who is waiting upon God. So let's talk about the preparation. So I say all of this to preface the preparation. So number one, I think that we need to stop worrying about finding the right person and start working on ourselves becoming the right person. Sometimes we want to find someone to heal from our insecurities when we really need to heal from our insecurities so that we could find someone. And, you know, I think this opens up to the fact that we need to get rid of some of the inner demons that we're dealing with. before we can proceed to a wholesome relationship. So if depression is going on, if we are spendthrift, if anxiety and self-hatred, this is all a lot of baggage to go into a relationship with. So I think, first of all, in terms of the preparation, we have to start looking at ourselves. Am I ready for this? Because marriage is a lifelong commitment. And I always say, marrying a person will not fix who you are, not fix your problems. So therefore, one has to be able to look at ourselves. So first of all, I think we need to look at, is this God's will for my life? Ruth wasn't looking for just any man, remembering her background. And I think a lot of us who are coming online here, we don't have to go through the whole Ruth story to understand that she wasn't just looking for a man, but a special type of man. So for me, we've got to look for ourselves, look inside ourselves. Are we ready for this? You can go ahead, Bishop Dobbin, and chip in before I come back in.
Yes, Lady Nelson, you've laid the foundation well. The only thing that I would add in terms of another scripture that speaks to the necessity for premarital counseling is Jesus' own word in St. Luke chapter 14, 28 to 29. He asks the question, is there anyone here who is planning to build a new house who does not first sit down and count the cost, figure out what it's going to cost before he begins to build, lest he begin to lay the foundation, unable to finish the building and become an embarrassment. So Jesus was saying here, whatever you're looking to achieve, there has to be plans, there have to be preparation. In buying a house is, for most people, a 30-year commitment. And with that 30-year commitment, many times they have, new home buyer program where you have to go through all of these classes, and you get to see the inside of what owning a home looks like, more than just dreaming about it. You get to see the real work that it takes to own a home. And that's something that you can do away with in 6 months or 3 months if you don't like the house. Now, marriage is supposed to be a lifelong commitment. And so if we can put that much time in preparing to buy a house that we can get rid of very quickly, why in the world would we want to get into a situation where we're doing life together without the necessary preparation? So, and Lady Nelson said it right. She said, looking for Boaz is not the same as looking for Jesus, because Jesus comes looking for us, and he accepts us the way we are. Boaz is not going to accept you where you are, and Ruth is not going to accept you the way you are. You have work to do on yourself to prepare to be that right person for the right man or the right woman. So premarital counseling is essential, as it tells you what you need to have in place in order to take on such a responsibility of marriage.
And I think also the fact has to go out there. We need to research what we want from God, because you may see me and you may say, oh my God, I love this woman. Or you may see Bishop Dobbin and you're like, oh my goodness, I love this brother. But do you understand what it means to marry to A or to B? We also have to recognize that not necessarily looking, sometimes we want to name it that this is a person we want to marry, but not recognizing that don't open somebody else's mail, because what you think is a check may be a bill, a lifetime bill. And so you have to make sure that this is God's will for your life. And I think the preparation is necessary, and it is necessary, especially as Christian brothers and sisters, that we seek God's faith when it comes to who we marry in life. I mean, I can give you a story that the fact of the matter is this: you also have to deal with your past. You have to deal with where you're coming from. because your past will also set the pace for your future. So if you don't deal with all your past, when you look at it, the word of God says that Ruth washed herself. In other words, look at where you're coming from and make sure that you take care of the past, because certainly, you know, we can see from a lot of Christian marriages that if you don't deal with your past, you're coming in with a lot of luggage, and the luggage that you're coming in are not necessarily empty. That luggage is filled with a lot of past brokenness, past relationships that you never really got over in your preparation for the next relationship. So you've got to deal with your past in order to accept what God has for your future. And whether it takes 6 months or 6 years, emotional baggage that comes in a marriage will definitely affect what takes place in the marriage. So therefore, you got to deal with your past, because your future is waiting to deal with you. And so the whole concept of preparation has also got to not only making sure that this is God's will for your life, but also in dealing with the past. Because if you do not deal with the past, it's going to create havoc in the future. And we see it while there's so many multiple divorces, because the emotional baggage from the past has crept into the future and has not been dealt with. So you carry 6 poor choices or bad relationship into this present one. And the person you're settled with right now is having a nightmare, because they're living with a nightmare because you've not dealt with your past.
And that was going to be one of my follow-up questions, is that what I'll just twist it slightly now, is that you mentioned already what are some of the implications of not dealing with past issues prior to going into a relationship. What further implication can that have on the relationship that you're embarking on? Bishop Doctor, you might want to talk on this one.
Yes. We're kind of breaking up. So could you just repeat the question for me?
Right. So my follow-up question would have been, you know, to exactly what Lady Nelson has just addressed. And I'm just going to twist the question slightly now to ask what further implications, she's mentioned some already, but what further implications can going into marriage, not dealing with past issues, have on the relationship that you're embarking on? And I think I should just ask red flags, for example, or maybe, you know, you can just touch on that as well. Red flags going into a relationship, what kind of implications can these have on the relationship that you're going into?
So you know, in the church, sometimes we have some folks who will tell you that they have been saved for 20, 30, 40 years. But then when you drill down on the fruit of their Christian experience, it may be 1 year of experience recycled 30 times. You just get it 30, you get 30 years, but it's really 1 year of experience. In other words, there haven't been much of any growth. Time just passed by, but there hasn't been any development. And the same thing applies to relationship. A lot of us have this thing where we believe that time heals all ills.